I don't think anyone said you couldn't look at your PowerPoint for your final, but it wasn't really discussed.
Marvin saying that's too bad because I don't remember the years and I didn't look. So
Well,
there's a
but
few.
if you want to know the answer to those questions, you have to ask before the test rather than after.
So Yami's just clarifying for the final exam. Yami was saying that so for the final exam, it's not allowed. That's what people assumed.
Well, who said that?
This is Peeb speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So Peebs is saying that what Woody just explained is that it wasn't really discussed whether or not it was allowed or not, but it's up to you guys if you want to, you know, have some kind of integrity with yourself and make sure that you've learned because of the fact that you learned as opposed to getting the questions right because you looked at your notes. It's all up to you. We didn't say it was allowed or not, but you know, it's just a measure of how much you've learned. And Meng saying, yes, yeah, I just wanted to be honest about what I did because nobody said it wasn't allowed. And I just wanted to say that I looked at my notes. That's why we're discussing it now. And yeah, I'm saying right. Dr. Woody didn't say anything.
And the previous, sorry.
But if there was any change in kind of instruction, then he would have said something before the exam. But I've already looked at my notes and I've submitted my test, so it's nothing much I can do. I just wanted to let you guys know. Meng saying. Uh, because there was a discussion with Rans, me, and Ray regarding the issue, and but it's done now. It's done now. We've already wasted enough time on this. Because in the last midterm, uh, we didn't use the PowerPoint, and I think Rans already clarified this, right? Peeps, did you want it to add? This is Peep speaking. Yeah, I understand the situation. Because we're doing this online, I know that it is also very tempting to have your notes on the side, but you have to just do a check on yourself, right? We'll just do the honor system. And, you know, it's up to you. If you feel guilty about it, you know, that's on you. So I hope that resolves it. I think we're good, sir. I'm saying we're good.
Okay. All right. So you want to take a quick break and then go through the exam? Or you want to go through the exam now?
I'm seeing break. Let's take a break.
Okay, all right. So let's break for till 2:15, 3:15 your time. Or no, 3:20 your time. Sorry, 3:20 your time.
Okay, sir. 3:20.
Okay,
Copy.
see you soon. All right.
All right, sir.
Public school for deaf people in the world was established in A, England, B, Germany, C, France, D, USA.
C.
C, France. The second public school for deaf people in the world was established in A, England, B, Germany, C, France, D, USA.
A.
A, England, right. The second public school for deaf people in Asia was established in A, Thailand, B, Vietnam, C, Korea, D, Japan.
I see D.
B, Vietnam,
D.
yes.
D as in dog.
No, no,
Oh,
B is
B.
in Vietnam. Second public school. Number 4, the first public school for deaf people in Asia was established in A, Thailand, B, Vietnam, C, Korea, D, Japan.
D.
D, yes. First in D, Japan, second in Vietnam, B. And number 5, the Second International Congress of the Deaf met in A, Rome, Italy, B, Milan, Italy, C, Paris, France, D, Washington, D.C.
I see B.
B, Milan, Italy, correct. Number 6, the first International Congress of the Deaf met in A, Rome, Italy, B, Milan, Italy, C, Paris, France, D, Washington, D.C.
I see C and B.
C, Paris, France.
C. Parents.
Yeah. First in Paris, second in Milan. 7, the National Association of the Deaf in the US was established in A, Rome, Italy, B, Milan, Italy, C, Paris, France, D, Washington, D.C. Whoops, that's a mistake. I think that was, sorry, not on the test. That's the earlier version of the test. Hold on. Let me get the. Should probably follow this one anyway. Okay. We're on 7. The National Association of the Deaf was in A, Columbus, Ohio, B, Washington, D.C., C, Cincinnati, Ohio, D, Paris, France.
C. C.
C, yes, yes. Okay, the first Association of Deaf People in Asia was established in A, Japan, B, Korea, C, Vietnam.
I see B.
Korea, yes. The second Association of Deaf People was established in, I'm sorry here, let me get this one out again. Second association was A, Vietnam, B, Korea, C, Japan, D, Thailand.
I see C.
D, correct, Japan. The first linguistic study of a sign language happened in A, France, B, USA, C, Germany, D, England.
I see B's.
Yes. B is in boy,
Boy.
USA. Yes. Number 11, the first linguistics PhD dissertation happened in A, France, B, USA, C, Germany, D, England.
I see B's.
Yes, correct. Number 12, the Deaf President Now movement occurred in A, National Technical Institute of the Deaf. B, National Association of the Deaf in the U.S. C, Gallaudet University. D, American School for the Deaf.
C.
Yes. The first university certificate program in sign linguistics occurred in A, Thailand, B, Japan, C, Hong Kong, D, Vietnam.
I see D.
D is in Vietnam, yes. Okay, that's number one. All right, number two. Hold on. Okay. One, the first public school for deaf people in the world was established in A, 1750, B, 1752, C, 1754, D, 1760.
C.
C, yes, 1754. The second public school for deaf people in the world was established in A, 1750, B, 1752, C, 1754, D, 1760.
D is in dog.
Yes, correct. Number three, the second public school in Asia was established for deaf people in Asia was established in A, 1776, B, 1786, C, 1876, D, 1886.
I see C and D.
First school was in, okay, was earlier, but second school was in 1886. Four, the first public school in Asia was for deaf people was established in A, 1778, B, 1780, C, 1878, D, 1880.
I see C's.
Correct, 1878, C. The Second International Congress of the Deaf met in the year A, 1878, B, 1880, C, 1882, D, 1884.
I see B's.
B, 1880. Six, the First International Congress of the Deaf met in the year A, 1878, B, 1880, C, 1882, and D, 1884.
I see A.
Yes, correct, 1878. Number seven, as a result of the Second International Congress of the Deaf, the first National Association of the Deaf in the U.S. was set up in the year A, 1878, B, 1880, C, 1882, D, 1884.
I see B's. B's as in boy.
Yes, correct, 1880. Number eight, the first Association of Deaf People in Asia was established in A, 1945, B, 1946, C, 1947, D, 1948.
B as in boy.
Yes. Second International Association of Deaf People in Asia was established in A, 1945, B, 1946, C, 1947, D, 1948.
I see C.
Yes, 1947. 10, the first linguistic study of a sign language happened in A, 1760, B, 1860, C, 1960, D, 2000.
I see C. C's.
Yes, C, 1960, yes. The first linguistics dissertation on a sign language happened in A, 1953, B, 1963, C, 1973, none of the above.
I see B and C.
C, 1973. Number 12, the WDL Thailand program began in the year 1993, B, 1994, C, 1997, D, 2000.
I see C and D.
C, 1997 in Thailand. 13, the program in Vietnam started in 2000. Number 13, the Deaf President Now movement occurred in 1986, B, 1987, C, 1988, D, 1989.
I see C's.
Yes. Okay, that's the end of number two. Let's go on to, oops, sorry, C, part three. Okay, there were blank number of deaf people present at the first International Congress of the Deaf. A, 0, B, 1, C, 5, D, 6.
A.
A, 0, correct. Number two, there were blank deaf person present at the Second International Congress of the Deaf. 0, A, B, 1, C, 5, D, 6.
B.
B
As in
as in
boy.
boy, 1, yes. Hold on. All right. Okay. At the Second International Congress of the Deaf, 158 people voted oralism was preferred to sign language in teaching deaf students. Blank people voted against this resolution. A, 0, B, 1, C, 5, D, 6.
I see D as in dog.
Yes, D is in dog, 6. Number 4, the first person to do a linguistic study of sign language was A, Lepay, B, Clare, C, Stokey, D, Woodward.
I see C.
C, Stokey, yes. Number 5, blank wrote the first linguistics dissertation on a sign language. A, Casterline, B, Kronberg, C, Stokey, D, Woodward.
I see D and
D
C.
is in dog, yes. Okay. Number 6, the WDL Thailand program was an effort by A, Gallaudet University, B, Ratchasida College, C, the National Association of the Deaf in Thailand, D, all of the above.
I see D and A.
D, all of the above. Number 7, the WDL Thailand program trained Thai deaf teachers to become A, teachers of deaf children, B, sign language researchers, C, teachers of Thai sign language, D, all of the above.
I see C.
Yes, C. 8, the Dong Nai project began in the year A, 1990, B, 1995, C, 2000, D, 2005.
I see C's and B's.
The correct answer is C, 2000. The Dong Nai program trained Vietnamese deaf people to A, become teachers of deaf children, B, sign language researchers, C, teachers of sign languages in Vietnam, D, all of the above.
D.
D, correct. 10, the Dong Nai program uses A, speaking and signing at the same time, B, Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language, C, Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language and spoken Vietnamese at different times, D, Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language and written Vietnamese at different times.
I see D as in dog.
D, correct. Okay. 11, the first play about attitudes towards the sign language, Sign Me Alice, was written in A, 1960, B, 1963, C, 1970, D, 1973.
I see D as in dog.
That's correct. Number 12, who wrote the first play about attitudes towards a sign language? The title, Sign Me Alice. A. Casterline, B. Kronberg, C. Eastman, D. Stokey.
I see C.
C. Yes, Eastman. Okay. All right, hold on one second. Let me get a number 2 here. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. From 1876 to 1866, deaf education in the US was through A, speech, B, sign language, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B.
I see B.
B, correct. Erasmus Deaf Smith was a famous deaf A teacher, B soldier spy, C artist, all of the above. D.
I see B.
B, yes. Number 3. Um, who proposed the idea of a deaf state in the U.S.? A. Booth, B. Carlin, C. Flournoy, D. Smith.
I see C.
C, correct. Number 4. Who was the first woman to graduate from Gallaudet University? A. Teagle, B. Hotchkiss, C. Dennison, D. Patton.
I see A's.
A, correct. Number 5. Okay. Who was the first president of the National Association of the Deaf in the USA? A. Booth, B. Hotchkiss, C. Dennison, D. McGregor.
I see C and D.
D. McGregor was the first president. 6. Who was the first person? Who was a deaf person who attended the Second International Congress of the Deaf? A. Clare, B. E.M. Gallaudet, C. Dennison, D. Hotchkiss.
I see B and C's.
C. Dennison. What was the other answer? B or D?
B
Boy
and
or
C.
dog?
B is in boy and C is in cat.
Okay.
That's what I saw.
Was E.M. Gallaudet deaf? No. Question asked, who was a deaf person who attended the Second International Congress of the Deaf? Who cannot answer Gallaudet? Number 7. Who was the first person to receive a PhD in linguistics? A. Teagle, B. Patton, C. Canapel, D. Foster.
I see B.
B. Patton. B as in boy. Okay. 8. Who was the first deaf teacher in the U.S.? A. T.H. Gallaudet, B. Clare, C. Hotchkiss, D. Dennison.
B.
B as in boy. Clare, yes. Okay. Number 9. Who was the first Black deaf graduate of Gallaudet University? A. Dennison, B. Foster, C. Humphreys, D. McGregor.
B.
Yes, Foster. Number 10. The first school for the deaf in the Philippines was established in A. 1905, B. 1907, C. 1909, D. 1911.
I see all B's except for one A.
B. 1907. Yes. The Philippine Federation of the Deaf was established in A. 1976, B. 1986, C. 1996, D. None of the above.
C.
Yes, 1996. Okay. Hold on here.
This is Shaq speaking. Regarding PFD, Ray said that it was in 1997, but in the internet it said that it was in 1996. So I'm wondering what is the real answer.
Okay, let's look it up on the internet. Yes.
Who was the first deaf teacher in the US? My answer was Clerk.
Yes, that's correct.
He was French. Was he French or American, rather?
Well, he was French, but he's the first deaf teacher in the US, right?
So when he went to the US, he became American.
Well, I don't know that. He went to the US and he could have remained a French citizen. Okay, here's what so did it answer the question about Claire? I don't know if he became, it didn't say who was the first American deaf teacher. It said who was the first deaf teacher in America, right? I can check to see if he became a US citizen, but many people live in countries and are residents, they're not US, they're not citizens. I have to check on that. Okay, and the Philippine Federation of the Deaf. I have here, it says, okay, October 19th, 1996. The PFD was founded on October 19, 1996 in a meeting held at the Philippine School for the Deaf, where 17 leaders of different deaf organizations nationwide participated. It was formally established during the first General Assembly held in Ateneo de Manila University, Quezon City on May 19th, 1997. So 1996 or 97 is acceptable.
Okay, great.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I was going to answer D, but good thing I answered 96, I think.
Yeah. So the formal establishment as a formal organization was 1997, but it came into being apparently in 1996.
Okay.
Good. Thank you for bringing that question up.
We'll do a switch interpreter.
Okay.
Yami is raising her hand. Honestly, I was a little bit confused because it's all about years and but when we started to put it in a separate, I started to become confused. That's why honestly it's hard for me to. So yeah, some are easy, but most of it hard. So I was a little bit confused during that test.
Yeah, well,
Dr. Woody, you're very smart in forming your question because it forces us to think about it. It wasn't in chronological
yes.
order. We had to.
Right.
This is Shaq.
if Dr. Woody would put it in like all in one set, it's all years, and others it's all in places. So we will not
Yes.
learn. So I think that's good. It's a good
Yeah.
thing that you did it.
I mean, history is not an easy thing. It's not easy. But the reason why I did it was I want you not to just memorize. I want you to, yes. Yeah. And Jasmine has her hand up.
Uh, for me, when it comes to years, I started to doubt because I think I remember um, this is for the school. It is in chronological order. So yeah, and uh, yeah, because the numbers are also confusing, so you have to really remember the exact year. So you have also to put the history into chronological order for you to learn, for you to memorize it. So I think it's very smart of you to mix it. So we will not try not just to memorize it, but
So Jasmine wanted me to be smart and make people cry, right? Cry because I separate them. I'm teasing. Okay, but the important thing is here that you need to know this material. In English, we say back and forth. Go from date to what happened, go from what happened to date, compare what happened to what happened, compare the dates. Why? I'm hoping you're going to be teaching this course to other deaf people in Philippines, not me. And the better you remember it, the easier it will be for you to teach. I mean, I have to review because I forget. Because I think every deaf person in the Philippines needs to know this kind of information. And who are the best people to teach this? Filipino and Filipina deaf people.
Ray is really nodding his head. Yeah, that's right. I think Ray has a question or
Yeah.
is raising.
So I need to learn. I focused more on the public school system and the year, but when it came to international stuff and trying to figure out what was happening in the world, especially if it was all happening in the same time, it was really difficult. It was a challenge, but at
Yes,
least
yes.
I did my best, and I think I got most of the things right on the test. So it really helped. Uh, the study notes really helped guide me.
Okay, good. All right. Any other questions or comments? And if not, then we'll stop for today. And we have a full period of time. And Peebs will be sending you some information for tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll start the applied sign linguistics class. So we'll be focusing on the book, the teaching book. Okay. All right. Now, I know some of you are working on this and some of you haven't been. But as part of the training, I need to teach you all about this. So we'll use the materials. And it may be that some of you will work more closely with this in the future, but you all need to have the basic training in how to develop the book. Okay, I mean, I'm going to tell you a sad story. This was before I started training people in Thailand, but some people in the 1970s, they came and trained some Thai deaf people how to make dictionaries. And they taught 4 people, deaf people. When I arrived in Thailand in 1997, 3 of the 4 people had died. So you cannot predict what's going to happen. So that's why you need to train more people than who are working on this now. And all of the deaf people in Thailand were in their 20s and 30s when they were trained. But, you know, one died from cancer, one got hit by a train, and I forgot how the 3rd person died. So, you know, it's very sad. Yeah. So we want to train all of you up, and you need to also train other people. Okay, so, all right. You never can know what's going to happen. You know, I could die tomorrow too, so we want to make sure we give you the training as quickly as we can. Okay, I'm not planning on dying tomorrow, but you don't know. Okay, all right. So take care, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock your, wait, what time? 2 o'clock your time, yes. Okay. All right, anything else before we close for today?